Okay, I get started for this lesson, and okay, maybe you guys sound. See if I can turn off your sound because I'm talking now. Will be better. Okay, good. Okay, now so how are you all coping? I hope you are all right. It's a bit boring staying at home all the time, but we're doing our best, and I am right now very busy marking your first assessment, WC1, and overall so far, and I think I have seen good stuff, and that means most of you, perhaps especially for those who were very hardworking doing the homework, seem to produce better stuff, which is logical and normal. So keep doing your work, and if you don't have any ideas how to do something, do check with me, because like I said, it's very easy. I almost turn on my Moodle message all the time. So if you ask me a question, you can see that I answer you very quickly. Okay, now, so what I would like to do today very quickly, three things I jotted down already. Number one, very quickly, to chat with you to make sure that you have, let me see, 1, 2, 3. This is on my screen now. Okay, so you can see the screen now. First of all, I hope you all have seen this important email I sent you. The title is called Important Information about the Arrangement of LUE 1002 Assessments. A lot of information in my email, but I just want to cut it short. Basically, it's a response to the university message. All right, I highlighted here about fortunately or unfortunately, we have to continue with our online teaching from now on till the end of the term. And secondly, they have allowed students to opt for the pass and fail option, including, of course, this course, or late drop or suspension. So if, for example, I have seen quite a number of students still have not submitted the work, so I guess either they want to drop the course or they want to suspend their studies for this term. That's okay, as long as you know what you are doing. Okay, now, so if you look at my email, and I made it quite clear that two things I want to discuss with you. Number one is about the last assessment, speaking assessment. Now, it sounds a little bit strange because we haven't really met at all, many of you in the classroom, but then I have to test your speaking. And to me, it's not ideal. Of course, you should have some sort of practice in class, but now it seems impossible. So, but the decision kind of like provisionally was made by the course coordinator and some teachers. And so it's very likely you're going to have the speaking test online using Zoom, like what I'm doing right now. And then you'll do it on a one-on-one basis. So I'm testing you while you're doing your presentation online using this technology, Zoom. So this is why I'm a bit concerned if every one of you is comfortable using this technology. Otherwise, we have a lot of technical problem when we come to the test at the end of the month, very likely at the end of April. So please make sure you are able to use this function, and then all the details will be given to you later. All right, so that's number one thing. And number two thing in my email is about the class participation. Now, you know, I have been quite laid back, not forcing everyone to be online right now, for example, and I know we have this recording function, so I tend to send you the link after we have a Zoom meeting. So I'm okay with that, and I think we should have a bit of a flexibility instead of forcing you to sit down in front of the computer, you know, all the time. I know it's very tiring. So whether you attend these meetings, and personally, I will not count it as attendance, but your homework is important. Now, so far we have done quite a number of pieces of homework. And as far as I know, we have done so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 already. So I'm planning to give you 4 more. That is totally 9 pieces of homework throughout this term. So your attendance, your participation mark definitely will be counted according to the number of pieces of homework you have submitted. And the details will be given to you later. So please make sure that you do some homework, okay? And now, in terms of the assessment, you know that we have changed to 4 to 3 assessments now, so we skip the group presentation, and most students thought it's not feasible doing it online. Of course, I agree as well. So that's why we have only 3. Now, the problem is if we have 3 assessments, that means the assessment mark for each assessment will be higher. Take, for example, WC1, we should have 20%, and now we will definitely have more than 20% for that. So if you do a quick maths, you know that if you do not submit the first assessment or the second or third one, if you miss any of these assessments, I would definitely say that is very, very likely you will fail the course. All right. Now, so if you choose to drop the course or suspend your study, that's absolutely no problem at all. But I just like to make it clear to you. And then you need to definitely, all right, make sure you will do all the rest of the assessments. And if you look at the latest date, I think for the late drop period or suspension, then from 23rd to 31st of March, you should do it with the registry, and that's your choice, all right? And then make sure that you make the right decision. Now, of course, if you're dropping too many courses, that will be a problem, that you don't have the good GPA. I mean, they don't count your GPA, but then adding up together, if you did not do very well in the first term, your GPA is low. So that means you need more good grades to make your GPA higher. Than if you drop too many courses, then that will be a problem. So I leave it to you to think about that. So we have done the WC1 already. So what you need to do is focus on WC2, that is the essay writing, and SC2, right? SC2 is the individual presentation. Now from week 7, last week, till week 12, all the lesson plans will be focusing on these 2 assessments. Unfortunately, the last one, of course, will be very short, is speaking. I mean, I will focus more on the essay writing. As you know, it's more difficult and complicated. And these 2 assessments are interrelated, as you know, and oops, why is that funny thing? Because if you've done a good research essay, basically, you just need to repeat the contents in a spoken form in the individual presentation. So you only need to present your essays in spoken language instead of using very formal language like what I'm talking to you now. So that's why your essay is very, very important. Okay, so please do that. And so if you don't have any questions about this, so I will come to the second thing about the topic I like to talk about today, that is to revise very quickly the topic sentence and the thesis statement you have just done in the past week, because they are very important elements in the lesson I'm going to talk about today, that is counter argument and refutation. So let me do a quick, yes, let me go to the essay first. Okay, just let me see. Oh, you need to, so just a minute. Yes. Okay, now I'm going to just give a very quick review, since I haven't really talked to you for a while, about this sample essay model A. You have seen already, you've done homework about this already. So quickly review the thesis statement and also the relationship with the topic sentences in the essay. So you read this already several times. So basically, if you look at this sample A essay, the last sentence, athletes who use any type of biotechnology give themselves an unfair advantage and disrupt the sense of fair play, and they should be banned from competition. This is exactly what we call the thesis statement. thesis, all right? So usually you put it at the end of the, okay, of the, you put it at the end of the introduction. So the position is definite. So don't play around, put it at the top of the sentence or whatever. So that's the important thing you need to do. When I mark your essay, I definitely look at whether you have the thesis statement. And then in the thesis statement, I talk about two things you need to do. Number one is your stance, all right? So you don't exactly have to say agree or disagree in the stance. But if you look at this sentence, athletes who use any type of biotechnology give themselves an unfair advantage, you know that your stance is going to be negative about the choice of, sorry, did I get rid of this? The choice of the, your agreement about the topic. That means you do not agree with this, okay? So this is, let me just, I don't know why I have this function. Okay, so this is very important. So the thesis statement has to be there, including your attitude, your stance, and also two major arguments. So we have done the homework. We know the two major arguments is unfair advantage and disrupt sense of fair play. So your homework before, I ask you to look for the topic sentence. So if you go to paragraph 2, you can see that the first sentence, researchers are experimenting with techniques that could manipulate an athlete's genetic code to build stronger muscles or increase endurance. So this is the explanation of the idea unfair advantage. You remember last time I commented on your homework, lots of people chose the last sentence, all right? And saying that the researchers also found that the combination of gene manipulation and exercise led to a 35% increase in the strength of rats' leg muscles. And this is just what we call an example or supporting data from a source. It's not a topic sentence. So be very, very careful. The ideas will be similar, of course, but then make sure you need to explain your argument first by writing this topic sentence. So that's number 2. And paragraph 5, again, is a bit tricky because in paragraph 5, the sentence, the topic sentence is not exactly in the first sentence, all right? So we said that is a bit tricky. Sometimes people might put it in the middle of the paragraph, but personally, I do not sort of like support that. If you want to make it clear and let me understand it properly. So let me see. Oops. So let me found the sentence. Okay, so yeah. So in the middle of the sentence, I think we've seen it already. I'm trying to, because the screen blocked this. Anyone can help me to read out the sentence? George, are you here? George? Can you turn on your mic, George? No? Okay. Strange. Anyway, so I think the sentence, I can't see the screen properly in the middle part of the sentence, right? So, well, check it out in the homework page. It's a bit strange. I cannot, I want to read it out to you, but I can't. Why is something wrong with okay, never mind. Okay, so you know the sentence, you check it out. And then another one, of course, is the Model B. Okay, same thing, I think, the SAB. Okay, so the same old thing. So the thesis statement is the last one, the shift from print to online news. Provide, so I can't see it because it's blocked it. News provides unprecedented opportunities for readers to become more engaged with the news, to hold journalists accountable and to participate as producers, not simply as consumers. This is, again, what we call the thesis statement. So including the positive attitude of the writer about online news, and also 3 major arguments: more engaged with news, hold journalists accountable, and the participant is not just consumers, but also producers of news as well. So that's why the exercise also, you did the homework, and I expect you to find the topic sentences related to these 3 arguments. So I'm not going to go through this. So you can see that in paragraph 3, all right? So because it says providing hyperlinks, and you have a picture here. So to show that when you read the online news, you're not just reading the article. Sometimes you will have some link take you to elsewhere, give you extra information. That means you can have better ideas about the news. And then of course, the links sometimes provide lots of more information, more than traditional newspapers. Like for example, because if they let you take yourself to another link, then you can see the different arguments. So you could see the disagreements, all right, and personal assumption and values. So that means some sort of things extra as well. And lastly, of course, you could also be a producer when you use online news, and paragraph 5, because everybody use a iPhone or whatever when you go out. So think about the protests, right? In June last year, lots of people were holding their mobile phone and taking videos and all this stuff. So all these videos could be used, all right, formally, like in court cases and things like that. So this is why some of these are very useful. Okay, now, so this is what we talked about in the last few weeks. Now I'm coming to the, okay, I'll stop here. Any questions? So please type in anything if you want to ask me questions in the chat function. If you don't want to talk, any particular questions? Okay, so if not, then I would go to the lesson plan for this week, which is week 8. Lesson plan. Okay, now, so after thesis statement, after counter arguments, the next thing you need to do is to come up with some counter arguments and rebuttals, or another word for rebuttal is called refutations. Some of you have already looked at my lesson plan. I could see on the Moodle that you handed in your homework already. But even you've done your homework, please check again and listen carefully now and see if you've done the right thing. I'll give you the answers on Monday, but it will be good if you listen to my explanation one more time. Okay, now, so basically you are required to do the counter arguments. If we go back to the lesson plan, as you can see, definitely this is the typical structure of the essay you're going to write. So you've done thesis statement, you've done topic sentences. The last part is counter argument and rebuttals. All right, now it's not a choice. When you hand in your essay, it's a must, which means you need to do it. You cannot choose not to do it. Otherwise you get marks deducted if you refer to the marking scheme. So if you looked at it, and some of you told me in the last term, some of the students told me that, oh, I did it in my liberal studies. Okay, when preparing DSE, I needed to put in counter argument and rebuttal as well. So this perhaps is not new to you, this concept of counter argument and rebuttal. So basically what it means is, I would say that counter argument is just like a debate. If you've done a debate or you've seen a debate, you know there are 2 sides. One is pros, one is con. So if you're pro, of course, it's easy. You come up with your major arguments. That's similar to what we call the topic sentences. But putting in topic sentences are not good enough, because you might have people, while they're reading your essay, like me, challenge you, thinking that, well, what about this? I don't agree with you. Then you need to consider the opposite argument and try to challenge it back or defend yourself. All right, now this is very important. You, of course, in a DSE essay, you don't have to do it or even in doing IELTS, you don't have to do it. But what is the effect if you do it? If you do it, that means you can make your essay more persuasive and convincing. Why is it more persuasive or convincing? Because people know that you have considered their potential doubts about the stance, all right? So people might be even just a reader, not face-to-face in a debate. They might just, talk back while they're reading and saying that, well, I don't agree with it. But if you put in the ideas that your opponents have thought about and then challenge it, then of course will be better. So this is exactly what I mean. Now, by doing that, of course, how do you do it? All right, in this paragraph. So first of all, you have to bring up the counter argument. That means you have to imagine what is the common challenge to your stance. Okay, so first part is to explain. All right, sometimes you need to add some data to sort of like present it more clearly to the reader. What is the fuss about? All right, then give some information. And the next step is try to answer the challenge, all right, like you say, or talk back, just like a debate. If your opponent's side challenge you, you definitely would answer. So your rebuttal or refutation is your answer to the challenge. So this is exactly what I mean, all right? Now, so I gave you a very simple example. I know this concept you may or may not know it already, but some students, perhaps they haven't come across before. So I use this very simple example. So if, for example, this is the argumentative essay, should the sale of cigarettes be made illegal as cocaine? So you know cocaine, something that you could get in 7-Eleven and Nan Kwai Fong or underground places in parties and all this stuff. Now, so your stance is no, should not be made illegal because, your stance is yes for that cigarettes should be made illegal because you think that medical evidence that already suggests smoking is no good for our health, all right, could cause cancer or other heart diseases. So you would say, yes, we should make it illegal, like cocaine. Even the seriousness of the effect of smoking cocaine or cigarettes might be different, all right? But you still think that is no good, so why don't we ban it? Okay, so you give your argument, all right? But the counter argument would be something like, well, it's not very practical if you ban cigarettes because people can still go to Lan Kwai Fong parties or get a friend who lives in China across the border, lives in other countries to bring back some cigarettes to you, or they would get it from the black market, all right? So you have to defend yourself. Particularly, he said it's not practical. So what is your defense? Your defense is, it is important to bear in mind that not many smokers know the way to get cigarettes from a black market. Even if cigarettes are sold in the black market, it's very likely the number of smokers will reduce since cigarettes are not easily available and they're more expensive. All right, now, so this is very good. You focus on the argument about black market. All right, now that's why I put an important note here. So try to challenge the same idea. Now, the worst thing I have come across in essay is when students try to put in the counter arguments and rebuttals, they do not challenge the counter argument per se. They just repeat the previous topic sentence and elaborate a bit more, or add in different information. Now that is a failure of rebuttal, all right? Now, so rebuttal should be something that you addressed to the argument of the counter argument. So in this case, it's about black market. So you should focus on talking about black market. Don't repeat by saying, oh, cigarettes are bad for your health. People die of smoking every year, all right? So understand, so this is very important. Another counter argument is, oh, some people, they smoke because they feel that they can psychologically get some sort of relief or relaxed. So you might see some students, I often see some students For example, smoking outside, I think then there's a place for people smoking there. Or when I drive along, you know, the Castle Road, some students or even some teachers I've seen smoking outside on the pavement. So why do they do that? And because they think, well, I'm so harassed, I need some sort of relief, all right, to my, give me some sort of personal space and breathe. Now, that's okay, but your rebuttal is to address the issue of relieve their work pressure, all right, relieve their work pressure here and beneficial to psychological health. Okay, so don't keep repeating and cigarettes can cause cancer, because cancer, again, is not psychological thing, it is physical things. Okay, so this is a very good rebuttal, common one I'm sure you can come up with, and that is to address the issue of psychological health and relieve work pressure. So you could say that there are a lot of other things you can do apart from just smoking. Okay, so yet again, just a reminder, please address the issue of work pressure, relieve work pressure. Do not repeat the same arguments. Okay, all right, so any questions so far? Everybody here, do you hear me? Okay. Any questions? Please type in no. Good, right, so I can go on. All right, good. Now, so I give you an essay here to look at rather than just looking at sentences. The sentences are just for your understanding of the concept of counter-argument and refutation. That's why I chose an easy sort of sentence. Now, of course, when you write an essay, it's far more complicated than the previous sentence. Now, if you look at this topic, very good, should governments introduce some measures to prevent overfishing? And as you know, for environmental reasons, all right, or for whatever reasons, people tend to criticize. A lot of people overfish, all right, fishermen, of course, for commercial purposes. The more they fish, the more they can make profits and make money, all about money, all right? But referring to the environmental situation, and all the resources in the world can be exhausted one day, can be used up one day. So that's why you need to write this and submit your argument first, your stance. So this student thought, well, I agree, we should stop that, stop people overfishing. Then you have a simple thesis statement here saying that governments must encourage sustainable fishing practices. All right, the word sustainable, I'm sure you know, that means carry on forever, not just short term, but usually means long term. And other regulatory guidelines to ensure that the oceans preserve their variety of animal and plant life, all right, as well as sufficient fish populations. Okay, so the stance is very clear. That means the writer supported, all right, must encourage sustainable fishing practices, okay? Reason, because you want to keep the different types of animal sea lives. And also another major reason is to keep the sufficient fish populations. So even for commercial purpose or for our own purpose, we like seafood, all right? And we can have some seafood still in future, all right? Okay, now, so there are two topic sentences here in the essay. I don't put out the whole essay, but I just pick out the topic sentences. Number one is overfishing changes the oceanic environment and drastically multiplies the challenges that sea creatures face, which could possibly result in destruction of a variety of these sea animals. So if you look at this sentence, look at the oceans preserve their variety of animal and plant life. These two sort of echo each other. They are saying the same thing, but the topic sentence kind of like elaborates the idea a little bit more. All right, now, so please see the relationship of two. And sufficient fish populations. The second one is, since fishermen have to go farther and farther to find fish to catch in view of the decreasing number of fish in the ocean, stronger government controls of the fishing industry would help limit overfishing. All right, now, so yet again, this is a topic sentence related to sufficient fish populations. All right, now, so this is how you do it. Now, let's come to the interesting counter argument and refutation. Okay, now, first of all right, I colored it so that you can see it properly. The purple one is what we call the counter argument. So you bring in your opponent's view, just like a debate. You made your point, it's the turn of your opponent to make a point now. So your opponent says that, well, because the oceans are huge, most people hardly thought about oceans without fish, which is true. If you go out to a big sea, you never think that there is no fish down there. And some might claim that the environmentalists are over worried, all right? As a matter of fact, we're still able to order different kinds of seafood in a restaurant now. So basically, your opponent's saying that, hey, you're just over worried. Come on, if you go to Cycle or whatever, we can still order fish, different kinds of fish, all right? Seafood, tasteful, delicious seafood. We can order anything we want. Are you over worrying? All right, now, so this is your opponent's view. Okay, now then color black from there is your challenge, your rebuttal, is your defense. You said, nevertheless, this view seems to be a bit short-sighted regarding the fish population. So if you say short-sighted, that you point out, okay, you can eat seafood now, but it's just very temporarily. You may not be able to do it in future. Okay, so then the student find a very good quote saying that in 1992, the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development defined a goal of sustainable development as meeting the needs of the present without limiting the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So that means you have to find a way to meet the needs of the present. That means the present consumption, all right, that we can still eat seafood and cycle without limiting the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. That means without harming the chance of your next generation, that is your children, your grandchildren, of consuming seafood. Okay, so this is a very relevant quote, I would say. Now, but getting a quote, you always have to do one thing, like what you have been doing for your first assessment, all right, the response and reflection, the WC1. And you learned, and I have been telling you, I'm marking now, some students put in a quote, but they forgot to paraphrase. Paraphrase, that means you explain this quote once again. Now, by doing that, I can see whether you really understand the quote or you really know that there's some sort of relevance of your quote with your own argument. So this step is very important. So the blue thing is what I call explanation of the quote. So you've done it in WC1 already. So now you can understand why it is important. All right, this is why WC1 is a practice for you to do this. So repeat this step again, so explain. So you say, in other words, without practical responses to the issue of sustainable fishing, including the necessity of suspending certain fishing practices and monitoring the health of the oceans, the planet risks losing many species of marine wildlife in future. Okay, so basically explaining in your own words about this quote. And then you can use what we call the last one, is your concluding sentence. All right, just sum it up, finishing what you're going to say. So it's part of your reputation. So by limiting fishing in the oceans and developing commercial fish farms, we can succeed in both raising fish for human consumption and preserving fish for the future. All right, now, so the whole paragraph is very nicely done with different parts here. As you can see, different colors. So the first one, let me repeat, is the counter argument, your opponent's view. And the second one is some sort of data research. You may or may not need to do that, but if you put in, that would be better. And then the third part is your explanations of the research data, the blue color. And the last one is what we call the concluding sentence in a paragraph to sum up what you have said so far, especially for counter argument and refutation. The ideas may be a bit more complex, so it would be nice to do a concluding sentence here. Okay, now, so there is another example about, I think, selling the kidneys or something like that. That is, if you have looked at it, is, I don't want to, let me see. Okay, maybe, okay, I can sorry, somebody talking. Okay. Okay. Okay, I perhaps go to the article. Let me see. I think unit 5. Is it unit 5? Course materials, unit 5. Okay. So can you write something while I'm checking? Let me see your feedback if you don't want to talk. Are you okay or so far? Understand? Oops. So what's wrong with this? Maybe I'm using it on my computer. Let me just check. Okay, so turn it on. Try it again. LUE 102. Sorry. Unit 5. I don't know why I cannot open this now. I opened it earlier. Okay, never mind. Just another example anyway is about the organ sales, and basically it's the same thing. If you can follow that and try it out yourself, answer the questions. If you have not seen the materials, perhaps it's a good idea. I don't tell you now. You try it out yourself. So same idea, following the same steps. Start with the counter argument, your opponent's view first. All right, so very simple. Start with your opponent's views first, and then, okay, go back to that article, the fish one. Yeah. So if you look at the exercise, I better not to explain, maybe unit 5.2, page 13. So try it yourself and do the exercise. Yeah, better not to tell you the answer key. You could look at it later, and then follow this pattern and analyze the article. See if you can see the counter argument. See if you can see the refutation and the quote and any explanation of the quote, and then the concluding sentence. So I would suggest this is what we call the 4 parts strategies to put in a counter argument and refutation. Okay, so look at it later. Right, what else? And there are some useful phrases how you could do it, so I'm not going to go into details. Again, it's your exercise, so you check it when you finish yourself. Very straightforward. You don't need my explanation. Okay, now, so finally, you have to do this exercise and look at sample essay B. All right, it's about online news. You have seen already to talk about the topic sentences last time, but this time I'd like you to focus on the counter argument to see whether you can find the counter argument, and can you identify 2 major reasons or arguments that people attack online news. All right, you don't have to write in your own words, just find it in the paragraph and take it out and copy it directly. And then see if you can see the source materials. On rebuttal, can you see which paragraph you can see the rebuttal? And number 2, I'd like you to use your own word, because it's like, can you explain the ideas in your own words? So just summarize very briefly, what do you think about the ideas of the rebuttal? See if you understand that. And finally is your own core. That means, do you feel the rebuttal is convincing, persuasive? Why and why not? Okay, now all the answers will be posted on the Moodle on Monday, but please try it out first. And this unit is very important this week because, like I said, doing the major arguments seem to be quite easy, but counter arguments usually is the place where students lose mark for the essay. So you better understand it properly. If you don't understand, send me a message. If you think sending me a message, you find it difficult, all right, to explain, then if you don't want to talk to me, just use my Skype and I can talk to you on Skype personally. Very easy. And I think that's it for this week. So before I go, so please, do you have any questions? Okay, somebody asked me, do I have this recorded? Yes, I have recorded it. So before we say goodbye, can you just let me know whether you're okay or not okay? Don't worry, you'll see the link later. You can watch it again. So please go and do your work. Good. Now, the next step after thesis statement, topic sentences, and counter argument and refutations, the next week, homework or your task, if you're fast enough, start thinking about your outline. All right, now, so next week's lesson, you will learn how to write up an outline, and I'm going to expect you to submit your outline. Now, I know you might have tons of work to do right now, and lots of other courses are expecting you to do lots of work. You may or may not have time to do your outline, all right? But the outline is very important. Try to squeeze your time to just do something. I'll explain to you a bit more next week. Okay, so if you don't have any questions, I will say bye-bye, and you'll see the link again later. I send it to your email. Okay, have a good day. Bye-bye.